Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, are kiosks for tourists in downtown Seattle racist? We'll tell you what that's all about, but before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
There's a real question about the top story of the last 18 hours. Is it malicious? Is it malicious or is it moronic? Is it malicious or is it moronic? Of course, what we're talking about is former FBI Director James Comey. Now, a lot of people say he's posting a threat on Donald Trump's life. What did he do? He takes a picture and posts it to Instagram. Now, before you judge whether this was a real threat or not, we need to look at James Comey's Instagram account. And let me tell you something. This is a trip. It really, really is. James Comey is worse at Instagram than I am. James Comey is like a really, 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 really lame teenager posting on Instagram. For example, he's got one here which is a blue seashell leaning against some kind of wooden post that says, "Vote Harris." And he wrote, "Saw this at beach. Ariel understands the assignment." Are you saying you're checking out her seashells? Is that you're checking out the Little Mermaid seashells? Is that what's going on here? All right. Let's get into exactly. You know what I think? I think this needs something special. You know what I think? I think it's time for a special edition of Deep Thoughts with former FBI Director James Comey. He's got a picture of apples on a counter, and he writes, "There are plenty of reasons to be discouraged, but so many more to be thankful for. Happy Thanksgiving." It's apples on a counter. What does that have to do with Thanksgiving? You're trying to do apple pie, but it doesn't look like you're making apple pie. It looks like you're making something else out of these apples. Don't you do a turkey for Thanksgiving? Here's another one. It's a picture of a river, some rapids on a river. And it says, "But justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream." Amos 5:24. Deep. Very, very deep. He wasn't the FBI director when he wrote that, by the way. Or my favorite one. This is my favorite. There's a picture of Mr. Potato Head. He is missing his arms. He is missing his mouth. And it's from the side. So all you see is the potato, the blonde wig, and the pants. And it says, "Grandkids had this out today, which seems right. They are too young to appreciate the rule of law, but they'll learn, as many adults will, I hope." Are you threatening your grandchildren with are you threatening your grandkids, or are you threatening your grandkids, Mr. Potato Head? This is a terrible Instagram. He's trying to be deep, and I just come across going, "You're odd. You're strange. You're weird." You guys want to call JD Vance weird? You just heard all the posts we did about James Comey. All right. So now, based on that, when he's got rocks in the sand that say 8647, this is apparently some new thing on the left where they're saying 86 Donald Trump. You know where the term 86 comes from, by the way? I knew a teacher had taught me this one time, so I Googled it, and apparently there are multiple versions of this, so I'm going to give them all to you right now. The term 286 something means to remove, cancel, get rid of. The leading explanation points to Chumley's, a bar at 86 Bedford Street in New York City in Greenwich Village, which operated during Prohibition. When police raids were imminent, the bar would 86 patrons, meaning send them out the door of 86 Bedford Street to avoid trouble. Another theory links it to the restaurant code at Delmonico's. This is the one I heard. A famous New York restaurant where menu item number 86, often the soup of the day, was frequently sold out, leading staff to say 86 it when it was unavailable. That's the one I heard, but okay, we'll go with either one of those. But now the left has said they want to 86-47. They want to 86 Donald Trump because he's the 47th president of the United States. Now, James Comey, we know that the former FBI director, he was a terrible FBI director. He was just awful. And not because I disagree with him politically, but let's start with this. He admitted Hillary Clinton violated the law with the emails, but then said he wasn't prosecuting her. That's the new standard, by the way. He said she violated all this stuff with classified documents. Steele dossier, Russian collusion, somehow that managed to leak to the press. Yeah, he was a terrible FBI director, and he's a terrible Instagrammer. You know what he'd be good doing, probably? College professor. Rambling deep thoughts that nobody cares about that you think are very self-important. That sounds like the perfect job for James Comey. So he posts this on social media, and everybody goes bonkers. People say he's threatening to kill the president. Now, I can understand why the Trump administration is torqued up about this. He's had 2 assassination attempts, 3 if we count all the people who got sick at that rally of his where they thought it was some kind of chemical contagion. You had a bullet come a centimeter away from watching his assassination on live television. Then you had a guy waiting in the woods for him at his own golf course. You had Iran put a hit out on him. By the way, that's even more amazing in context that he just went to the Middle East and said, I'm willing to make peace. You tried to kill me, but you couldn't do it. I'm invincible, but let's make peace or I'm blowing you off the face of the earth. Like, that's really what he just said. You do realize that, right? So I can imagine the Trump people being a little miffed about threats on the president's life, especially since there's been so many of them. So he posts this, and immediately everybody goes bonkers crazy. Kristi Noem writes this: disgraced former FBI Director James Comey just called for the assassination of POTUS Trump. DHS and Secret Service is investigating this threat and will respond appropriately. Now, we also have Kash Patel. Kash Patel says we are aware of the recent social media post by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service and Director Curran. Primary jurisdictions with the Secret Service on these matters, and we, the FBI, will provide all necessary support. So now I'm going to put the question to you. Malice or moronic? I'm willing to go with moronic, but I understand the sensitivity. I want to know what you think. Malice or moronic? Give us a call, 206-421-5757, or text us, 206-421-5757. Now, there are cases when you can be malicious and you can be moronic. And by that, I mean the Congress people who decide to go attack a bunch of ICE agents, a bunch of federal agents outside an ICE facility in New Jersey. That was malicious and it was moronic, especially because who are you representing? The illegal immigrants? The criminals? That's who you're sticking up for? And assaulting police officers? I never want to hear about January 6th ever again. I never want to hear it again. You guys are on video assaulting police officers. You know who I haven't heard any of you advocate for? Caitlin Weaver. We've never mentioned Caitlin Weaver on this show because I didn't know her story until last night. And when I saw it, it is a parent's worst nightmare. Caitlin Weaver would still be alive if not for the open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration. This is from the Post-Millennial. A deadly crash that claimed the life of a young Colorado woman has ignited public outcry after a 15-year-old illegal immigrant received a plea deal that allowed him to avoid jail time. In July of 2024, 24-year-old Caitlin Weaver was killed in a high-speed collision in Aurora, Colorado. She was sitting at a stop sign, speaking to her boyfriend on speakerphone. She wasn't violating the hands-free stuff. She was on speakerphone. When a Jeep, driven by the teenage suspect, blew through the intersection at an estimated 90 miles an hour and T-boned her vehicle. She was placed on life support for 2 days before her family made the painful decision to donate her organs. A 15-year-old Colombian boy behind the wheel was reportedly racing with other teenagers through the residential neighborhood. He was unlicensed and was driving an uninsured vehicle he had taken without his mother's permission. Authorities later revealed he was in the United States illegally and has since applied for asylum. He has not been publicly named because of state laws that shield the identity of underage criminal suspects. Despite being initially charged with vehicular homicide, the teen was sentenced to just 2 years of probation and 100 hours of community service in a deal offered by the Office of the District Attorney, a progressive prosecutor who has received endorsements from prominent Democrats, including Bernie Sanders and Colorado Governor Jared Polis. Kaylin's father said the family was initially assured there would be no plea offer, only to be informed months later that there would be a deal. Prosecutors reportedly argued that the probation sentence could be more than a judge could impose after a guilty plea. Their daughter is dead. Dead. And this guy gets released because of a sweet plea deal, a sweetheart plea deal. He gets released. I don't hear any Democrats advocating for this young woman who was killed. I don't hear Jared Polis advocating for her. I don't hear anybody from Colorado advocating for her. Instead, what are these Congress people doing? Protesting at an ICE facility for the illegal immigrant criminals that are being deported by this administration, which is beyond crazy. Absolutely beyond crazy. I believe that these fools are, the ones who are protesting, are malicious and they're morons. They're on the wrong side of history and they have evil intent. If you attack a federal officer, you have evil intent. If you're advocating for a criminal who's been convicted, I'm not judging lawyers, everybody deserves a defense, but you're talking about people who've been convicted, who have been found guilty, who are being deported from this country for all the right reasons. Do you hear anybody advocating for Caitlin Weaver? Anybody? The first time I do this for a living, and the first time I heard her name was last night, and this happened in 2024. You don't hear her name, but we all know Kilmar Abreu Garcia, malicious and moronic. This whole insanity of advocating for illegal immigrant criminals. Oh, I'm gonna go advocate for Hamas. Oh, wait, the left does that also. I'm gonna go advocate for terrorists. Oh, wait, the left does that also. Malicious and moronic. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Terry in Parkland. Terry, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. I'd just like to say that James Comey is both malicious and moronic. I mean, this guy, I've been praying for this moment that he would make a mistake so we could go after him.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because over here on the text line, I just see moronic up the text line. So let me ask you this, Terry. Do you think he should go to jail, or do you think it's just we realize he's not a serious person now and maybe the people on the left realize it too finally?
Well, I think there should be an investigation, and I know we're going to find something, and he should go to jail. That's what I think.
I got you.
I love it.
Let's hear, Terry, I appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Let's hear what Donald Trump said about James Comey, because he was asked this when he was flying back, when he was in the United Arab Emirates. He's there. He's actually flying back right now, and Fox News was interviewing him during his trip.
He knew exactly what that meant. A child knows what that meant. If you're the FBI director and you don't know what that meant assassination. And it says it loud and clear. Now, he wasn't very competent, but he was competent enough to know what that meant. And he did it for a reason, and he was hit so hard. Because people like me, and they like what's happening with our country. Our country has become respected again, and all this. And he's calling for the assassination of the president.
Obviously, he apologized and said he
well, he
wasn't calling
apologized
for
he was
violence. But
look, he's a very bad.
What do you want to see happen?
What
do you want to see happen?
I don't want to take a position on it because that's going to be up to Pam and all of the great people. But I will say this: I think it's a terrible thing. And when you add his history to that, if he had a clean history, he doesn't. He's a dirty cop. He's a dirty cop. And if he had a clean history, I could understand if there was a leniency, but I'm going to let them make that decision.
By the way, growth from our president. Usually he would have gone, in the first term, he would have gone, he belongs in jail. He's the worst person. He belongs in solitary confinement. In fact, I'm going to reopen Alcatraz, and he's going to be the first prisoner. That's what it would have been. Him saying, hey, let Pam Bondi and let the Justice Department deal with it is good. But also he's saying, look at his past record. He has tried everything possible to get Donald Trump. Sylvia, here on the Warrior Injury Law text line, agrees. She says he's both moronic and malicious. Past history, malicious intent. Everyday track record, moron. Yes, right here from Heather in Tacoma. My version of this question is jackass or dumbass. Which is good, too. Very good. Yes, we can say that on the radio. She was worried I wasn't going to be able to say that on the radio. Yes, you can say that on the radio. It's not one of the 7 deadly words. Robin Lakewood says, TDS malicious, sore loser. Becky in Enumclaw says moronic. Yeah, that's kind of the sense we're getting from everybody around here. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's up, man?
You know, you hit it right on the head. You know, I think Mr. Comey is very moronic in the sense, and he's also stupid because what he did by posting the numbers 86 and the number 47 means now that he just marketed himself into prison.
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm not sure he actually goes to prison, but I think he's destroyed whatever was left of his reputation. I think at this point, everybody just realizes he's a fool. And now, if anybody did what I just did and went through his Instagram, I feel dumber having gone through his Instagram. I feel sad for him, and I don't like him at all. Thank you for the call, Leonard. Appreciate you being part of the show on Friday, my man. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Jason and Lacey. Jason, what's up?
You know, I'll agree that the guy's an idiot, but I think that they need to take action because we're seeing more and more veiled threats and blatant threats online, and they really need to draw a line in the sand and say, no, this is not acceptable. And they need to take this serious because if they don't, I think that it's encouraging or at least not discouraging people from being emboldened and making more and more threats and then prompting other people to actually take action. So I really think that this needs to be taken serious.
Yeah, I think it should be taken seriously. I think it should be investigated. At the same time, I think once they start researching it, they're just going to go, this guy's a boob. This guy's just a fool. I think that's really what you're going to find out, Jason. Look, we all want Comey to go to jail, but you can't put somebody in jail for being an idiot. Otherwise, we'll start with Jay Inslee, right? We'll just go down the list of all the people we know who are stupid. Jason, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, apparently kiosks that help out tourists are now considered racist in Seattle. You can't make this stuff up. We'll give you the insane details from the left when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, I know everybody was freaking out about all the Rite Aids closing, all the Bartells closing, where you're going to have your pharmacies. Well, the good news is CVS is going to be taking over a bunch of those locations, according to Reuters. However, this is terrible news for the environment because CVS receipts will continue to be printed on the longest paper for no reason whatsoever. Can somebody explain this to me? This is an East Coast, West Coast. This is everywhere there's a CVS. What are they putting on those receipts? And is anybody actually reading them? I feel like I've just gone to a ticker tape parade every time I go to a CVS. I'm fine with it. I like CVS as a business. I really do. I find that very entertaining. So congratulations. You guys let crime run rampant around here, and a whole bunch of these places closed even before the bankruptcy. Now you're going to get CVS, which is going to kill more trees. Well done, everybody. Meanwhile, do you know what a racist kiosk is? Well, let me explain this, and let me go back and just refresh your memory. Do you remember somebody named Nicole Thomas Kennedy? Do you remember her? Oh, wait a second. That's the wrong clicker there. That's what I played in the last segment. Do you remember Nicole Thomas Kennedy?
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Exactly. You remember she ran for Seattle City Attorney on the Antifa platform? That's right. She said she wanted to set up a staging area between Seattle and Portland for Antifa activists. Do you remember her campaign manager, Ty Reed?
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
That's right. This anti-police lunatic who is running her campaign, well, she's back in the news thanks to our friends over at Safe Seattle. So, here's what happened. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell has a new plan to make downtown Seattle and Chinatown International District safe. What is it? Kiosks. That's right. Interactive kiosks, which will come equipped with free Wi-Fi, digital wayfinding, and an ability to call for assistance, which will spend most of their time displaying ads. So, hang on a second. I just want to make sure I got this right. Your plan to make downtown Seattle safer are ads and mall kiosks that give you directions. Okay, first question. Anybody in downtown Seattle? So you're going to put electronic devices in downtown Seattle, and how long do you expect them to stay intact for? How long until they are stripped for parts? Really what this is about, this has nothing to do with safety whatsoever. This is Bruce Harrell going, oh, maybe we can get some more revenue for the city by having ads on these things. I don't think any advertiser is going to be able to display their ad after, what, a week? A month, when these things are completely stripped for parts once they're installed. But that's really it. So call for assistance. Yeah, how do those buttons work out at any big box item store? How call for assistance? Just press the button. Hello, may I help you? Help! Help! A man's got a knife and he's coming at me. Sir, calm down, please. Calm down, sir. Would you like me to send one of our ambassadors, our street ambassadors, to help you out? Does he have a gun? No, sir, they're unarmed. No, send the police. I'm sorry, we believe the police are racists and a form of white supremacy. We can't send the police to help you out. What's the insanity around here? Now, mind you, that's the approach I went with the mayor's safety plan. Would you like to know the approach that Ty went with? Yet another example of local fascism taking root. A combination of expanded public surveillance and forced capitalist propaganda in the form of sidewalk kiosks controlled, deployed, and operated by a coalition of anti-worker corporations, all thanks to our neoliberal politicians. Yay. I don't even know what that means. So you don't like capitalism, but you like the worker. You know that capitalism is what gives the workers their salaries, and without capitalism, you ain't got no workers. You're aware of this, right? You get how this works. If companies can't advertise their products, nobody buys their products. I don't think anybody's going to buy them based on a kiosk they saw in downtown Seattle. You know why? Aside from the fact that they're going to be stripped for parts in a minute and a half. How many people are downtown these days? Okay, so the people, how do I get to the ferry terminal? That's what it's going to be. I'm sorry, we're only open on weekdays from the hours of 9 to 5. We're not open at night. We're not open on weekends. So let's be real about this. These are fascist kiosks. These are racist kiosks. Oh, dear. This is what we have come to around here. What's the surveillance she's talking about? Seattle City Council has approved expansion of traffic safety cameras, once again, like the kiosks. This has nothing to do with safety. This is not going to reduce accidents or anything else. You know what it will do, however? It's going to increase revenue for the city. Why? Because they're going to send you more tickets based on you going through lights half a second after it turned from yellow to red and you're already in the intersection. That's what this is all about. It's about more revenue for the city. Nobody's actually watching. They're reviewing it afterwards. That's when they actually care, just so they can send you a ticket. And then we saw this one. This comes to us over from the Post-Millennial. Social media accounts associated with Antifa are circulating a guide that instructs members how to create incendiary devices designed to destroy infrastructure cables. I wonder if their first target is going to be the fascist kiosks, the racist kiosks. Andy No said that Antifa accounts are sharing a guide on how to make the incendiary devices that will burn cables used in infrastructure like train tracks. Antifa and anarchist extremists believe that domestic terrorist attacks must be used to destabilize and destroy the state. You remember that these lunatics were the ones trying to derail trains? And in fact, one of them got derailed and they claimed it was malfunction. And I still have my suspicions about that train derailment because there were over a dozen cases where they found far-left radical activists trying to derail trains. That story sure disappeared from the headlines, didn't it now? When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss. Is the FBI moving out of the J. Edgar Hoover building? And where are they going? And what are they going to do with the building? I have lots of questions. We'll discuss when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I've discussed on the show many times about how my family used to vacation a lot in Washington, D.C. When you grow up in New York, Washington, D.C. is within driving range. We would go to Boston, Philadelphia, D.C. We loved it. We love Washington, D.C. However, I remember how disappointed I was by the FBI tour. The FBI tour, it does have some interesting stuff in it. It has a wall of all these fun weapons they've confiscated. That was kind of fun. A lot of it looks like spy stuff, you know, a sword and a cane or hidden guns, stuff in shoes. Very, very cool. But I remember they take you to a shooting range. Now, this is going back, I don't know, 30 years or something. They used to take you to the shooting range part. And the guy who's giving the tour, you sit in this stadium-style seating area, and they go to the shooting range and they do a few shots, and then they pull down the target and give it to you. For all I know, that thing is still sitting in with my stuff at my parents' house somewhere. Because I remember I got one of the targets because it was mostly adults on that tour and me, my brother, and my sister. That thing's around somewhere. But the FBI building was not that exciting, or maybe I was too young to appreciate it. Maybe it's that. But now Kash Patel has announced that the FBI is leaving D.C. headquarters. He says that they're moving. He made the announcement this morning. He said the FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workplace. The FBI is 38,000 people when we are fully manned, which we are not. In the national capital region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we are taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state is getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say we want to work at the FBI because we want to fight violent crime. And we want to be sent out into the country to do it. He added that the transition will begin in the next 3, 6, 9 months. We want the American men and women to know that if you're going to come to work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that and not this place. Now, I thought he was going to say more along the lines of we're a target. We're in Washington, D.C. Everybody knows the J. Edgar Hoover building. I thought that's what it was. Instead, what he's saying is everybody's doing the work here. The crime ain't happening here. How about we send the people out to where the crime is happening and have them do the work from there? What's the point in everything coming back to the main office? Perhaps that is slowing down response time. And by the way, I agree with this. Why do you need so many people in D.C.? Shouldn't they be out in the field? You need less bureaucrats. You need more field agents. I'll tell you, it's fascinating subscribing to the Department of Justice and the FBI's press releases. I get to see all these different crimes, and they put everything out, just press release about what they found. A lot of this stuff doesn't make the news because you don't care that some random accountant is going to jail for defrauding somebody. I'm sure the people that got defrauded care about that, but that's not something that's news. But you do find out about other fascinating stuff. So, for example, as we discussed yesterday, this former National Guard member who was going to do a mass shooting at a military base in Michigan on behalf of ISIS. So Kash Patel was asked about this. I found this in a press release too. FBI Director Kash Patel issued a fiery warning after the Bureau disrupted a mass shooting plot at a military base on behalf of ISIS. Patel told Fox News Digital that any individual targeting the U.S. military or conspiring with any foreign terrorist organization will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. This comes after former Michigan Army National Guard member Ammar Abdul-Majid Mohammed said was arrested for allegedly planning a mass shooting near the U.S. Army Tank Automotive Armaments Command Center at the Detroit Arsenal in Warren, Michigan. Patel said, "Let this be a warning. Anyone who targets our military or conspires with a foreign terrorist organization will be found, stopped, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. I commend the men and women of the Joint Terrorism Task Force and our law enforcement partners for their continued dedication to protecting the American people." This is huge, by the way. I mean, it used to be we couldn't even call it a terrorist attack. In the Obama years, it was called workplace violence when Naveed Haq shot up a military base. You remember that's what they called it, workplace violence, not terrorism, even though I forget which terrorist organization it was that he pledged allegiance to. Was it ISIS? Was it Al-Qaeda? Was it I can't keep all the terrorist groups safe, but that guy literally said that at the time. But no, It's workplace violence. Yes, the federal agents should be out in the field. They should be out at field offices. They should not be in Washington, D.C. You can have the one guy there giving the tour for people like Ari Hoffman who like taking the tours of the stuff, but you do not need that many people working in the FBI building. Our founders and framers did not want Washington, D.C. to become what it is, a city filled with lobbyists and bureaucrats. They wanted you to go there, do your job, and come home. So a little disappointing they didn't put in term limits. Probably back then they didn't think people would live this long. That's probably a lot of it. They had no idea you could have a Joe Biden as president back then. So this all works into the Doge plan, the Doge idea. By that I mean cutting a lot of funding, cutting a lot of spending. And here's a little problem we had today. So Moody's, the very high-profile credit rating agency, they have downgraded the U.S. credit rating one notch due to persistent fiscal deficits that it sees as likely to deteriorate more in the future. They said successive U.S. administrations and Congress have failed to agree on measures to reverse the trend of large annual fiscal deficits and growing interest costs. We do not believe that the material multi-year reductions in mandatory spending and deficits will result from current fiscal proposals under consideration. They said this reflects the increase more than a decade in government debt and interest payment ratios to levels that are significantly higher than similarly rated sovereigns. So, translation for this, you guys are spending too much money. You can't pay it off. You have no plan to pay it off. You have no plan to cut it. Now you have problems. Now, let's not forget, this started under the Obama administration. First, it was Standard & Poor's, then it goes down the list. Moody's was the last one who gave him that AAA credit rating. And what happened today that may have factored into this? Today, in Congress, they were starting to discuss the big, beautiful bill. And some Republicans sandbagged the thing because they said there's not enough cuts in it. They're not wrong, by the way. But the problem is that nobody wants to touch the entitlements. Nobody wants to deal with the entitlements. And if you don't deal with the entitlements, these problems are only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse because it's Social Security that's going bankrupt. It's Medicare. It's Medicaid that are going bankrupt. And here's something else. If you do try to stop them, if you do try to do something about them, like Medicaid, what are they trying to do with Medicaid? They're trying to make sure that people who work are not getting, people who should be working are not just sitting on their butts collecting welfare. That's what the Trump model is. But what happens? You get somebody like Attorney General Nick Brown here, who then sues the Trump administration claiming, I'm saving Medicaid, I'm saving Medicaid, as opposed to, can we get the lazy bums off their butts and back to work? No, they make too much money from all the welfare entitlement programs we have around here. So let's just give them more money. Now, I understand. It's not the AG's job to make sure that we're fiscally responsible. His department, yes, but not the federal government. But at the same time, isn't it your job to make sure there's no waste, fraud, and abuse? Are you supposed to look out for the taxpayers? Well, if Medicaid goes bust because there's a whole bunch of people sitting on their butts and you're the one who did the lawsuit to stop this, that's on you. And what Moody's, Standard & Poor, and everybody else is seeing, it doesn't matter who's in the White House. Republicans have the things they like to spend money on. Democrats have the things they like to spend the money on. And nobody's willing to actually make the cuts. You know what? It may cost you the election, guys, but it may save the republic. It may save our economy. Something to consider. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, Verizon is finally dumping DEI. Maybe it's time to actually consider getting one of their phones. We'll discuss that when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know, I had a whole segment on the woke stuff planned, and then all of a sudden got some breaking news coming across right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
Former FBI Director James Comey is going to be escorted by Secret Service to Washington, D.C. for an interview after he appeared to call for the assassination of President Trump in a now deleted social media post. So I guess this is a real FAFO situation when you post something that dumb. As I said, and I still believe, moronic, not necessarily malicious. But at the same time, sure, they should investigate it. But hang on a second. Prediction. I didn't get this from the news. I got this from the official release. What's going to happen? Guaranteed within 5 minutes, you're going to see headlines and commentators from MSNBC and CNN and everybody else where they're going to be saying, Trump is prosecuting his political enemies. He's going after people who disagree. Just watch. That's what it's going to be. No mention of what Joe Biden did. No mention of what James Comey did. No, it's just going to be Orange Man bad. Not he threatened to kill the president. Just Orange Man bad. By the way, I can appreciate when people on the left say there's things they're liking about what Donald Trump is doing. My head almost fell off when I was watching this clip with Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian from the Young Turks. Now, Ana Kasparian is more of your typical classic JFK liberal. Cenk Uygur, he just does it for the clicks. He's an outrage machine. He's always doing the lefty, the most far left thing you can think about. I interviewed him at the RNC. Nice enough guy. I kept it pleasant, but he was very clear why he was there. He doesn't want to disengage from the conversation, so I appreciate him coming on the show. But there's never been a lefty policy he doesn't like. Hearing these two talking about how much they like Donald Trump, I was blown away.
Going to give a lot of credit here to Donald Trump. And if you're on the left and you're like, oh, he brought home a hostage and cut out Israel, but he's Trump. Boo! I don't want to give him credit. What do you need? So did you not want to bring home a hostage? Did you want to make sure he followed the orders of the Israeli government? I don't know what you want, but I'm a fair person and an honest person. Trump deserves a lot of credit for this deal. Okay?
I can't believe I'm saying this. Someone who Donald Trump tapped to serve as his special envoy to the Middle East, Donald Trump tapped him, is way better on this issue than who Biden had involved in peace negotiations and a ceasefire deal. It's just incredible to see it.
Yeah. So look, redemption on every count. So what do we tell you? We told you that the Democrats are a bunch of robots and they're never going to waver 1 inch from what the donor class wants.
So I'm pretty surprised. They're still coming at it from the lefty perspective. You heard him. He's no fan of Israel, right? We disagree on that for sure. We discussed that at the RNC. But at the same time, he's coming at this stuff from the lefty perspective, and he's still praising Donald Trump because you have to admit that this entire Middle East trip was a whole series of win today with the United Arab Emirates. He came home with another $1.2 trillion, I think, in deals with them, a whole bunch of interaction. And don't forget, the Emirates were one of the first ones who signed on to the Abraham Accords. And when they signed on to the Abraham Accords, they became partners in peace. And they were being interviewed. Some of their leaders were being interviewed on Fox News today, and they said the only way we could deal with the situation in Gaza is to get rid of Hamas. They sound like they could be hosting the Ari Hoffman Show. This is the path to peace and prosperity through business relationships, and it's working. And many businesses back home are recognizing the turning tide as well. For example, Verizon announced today the termination of its DEI policies in a letter sent to FCC Chairman Brandon Carr. The telecommunications company said it recognized some of its DEI policies were discriminatory and vowed to terminate all company roles focused on DEI effective immediately. This comes after the Trump administration launched a probe into the company over such policies in February. Verizon cited Supreme Court rulings, President Donald Trump's executive orders, and federal mandates for its decision to eliminate DEI from the company. It doesn't want all its lefties leaving and not becoming subscribers anymore. The company will no longer maintain workforce diversity goals. Instead, it would remove references to DEI from employee training and make other changes to hiring, career development, supply diversity, and corporate sponsorships, according to the letter. That's huge, by the way. We know that DEI discriminates. We know that DEI picks winners and losers. Me personally, I'll never use Verizon again. Maybe if they sponsor the show, I will. I had the worst, absolute worst experience with them when they were my phone providers in New York. That is a hard, hard pass. Never going to them again. But it's nice that they're finally waking up. Question is, how many of these people are actually getting fired? And the question is, how many other companies are going to do the exact same thing? Because this is something that's been a long time coming. Look, we know that DEI picks winners and losers based on the color of their skin, based on their ethnicity, and this is something that has got to go because it is discriminatory. If you do not fit on DEI's intersectional scale, on the left's intersectional scale, then you just don't count, which is beyond infuriating. Beyond that people are taking this long to recognize it. I mean, just listen to how they talk. Look at some of the videos they make you review in corporate world about this stuff. They're beyond crazy. They're beyond insane. Good on Verizon and good on the Young Turks for recognizing that there was a whole bunch of Trump wins this week. That's actually huge. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, my friends, a Sound Transit board member is accusing King County of wasting money. Well, isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 4:45, Zach from The Morning Show will drop by to put a smile on your face heading into the weekend and help us navigate what's real and what's fake in this insane news cycle. But before we get to any of that, I saw this headline from Como News and I just started laughing. I actually LOL'd. I actually laughed out loud. Balducci accuses King County Council of wasting money, sparking fiery response. Claudia Balducci is a member of the King County Council. She is also a member of the Sound Transit Board. So she, as a member of the Sound Transit Board and a member of the King County Council, is now suddenly concerned about wasting money. All of a sudden, from Sound Transit that can never run on budget, that can never run on time, that has had to tear up the tracks on I-90, 3, 4 times? I've lost count how many times, because they can't get math right. The ones who are about to cancel the West Seattle project, having already spent $5 billion, $4 billion, without even doing a stitch of the construction of the line. You are going to accuse the King County Council of wasting money? Now, mind you, King County Council does waste money. They're government. That's what they do. Why is she doing this? She's doing this because she's trying to get you to vote for her. That's right. All the listeners of the Ari Hoffman Show, all the listeners of KVI, anybody who's a little bit more center, anybody who's a little bit more right, anybody who's more right, anybody who's like me, trying to get the conservatives, she's trying to appear fiscally responsible, even though I think she is one of the worst members of the King County Council. What's going to happen is she is running for Dow Constantine's job. She wants to be King County executive. And who she's going to end up running against is Gourmet Zahile, who is a far-left radical. She is also a far-left progressive, but a little less so than him. So your election choices, because the King County GOP is MIA, your two choices are going to be far-left versus Marxist left. Those are going to be your choices for the executive of King County. That's what it's going to come down to. So what she's trying to do is get you to actually vote. Me, if it's either one of them, I'm not voting. I'm just not. I'll write in my dead grandfather. He would have more of a chance of actually doing something than either one of them. Both of them suck. I could give you a long list of reasons why. But what is she mad about? And she's not wrong. But the amount of waste we've seen in King County, this is what you call out? So she is publicly accusing the council of wasting more than $300,000 on election flyers and miscellaneous purposes at a time when the county is simultaneously talking about millions in budget cuts. The accusation has rankled her colleagues and prompted a strong reaction from her main opponent in the race for King County Executive, Gourmet Zahile, who has accused Balducci of executing a desperate political stunt. The controversy started back on April 1st after a seemingly innocuous employment and administrative committee meeting. In that meeting, the council staff discussed directing $35,000 to each district representative. The meeting's video is not available on the county's website. Zahile chairs the committee at the council. On April 18th, the council's chief operating officer, Janine Wee, sent an email to key council staffers suggesting she had great news for all of you and that they would see a line item of an additional $35,000 in your budget. There is no restrictions on how those funds can be spent. Time out. So what you're telling me is Zahile and his little committee, which is other members of the King County Council, they decided that here's $35,000 to each council member. Do whatever you want with it. No problem. Use it to campaign. Use it for whatever. Just take the $35,000. Use it however you want. This is the kind of stuff that really ticks me off when I'm paying my property taxes. Because $35,000, a lot of money, which means that's already, double my property taxes, something like that? And you just took it and said, go spend it on mailers. Go spend it on flyers. No problem at all. I remember when my property taxes were $6,000 when I first moved here. That's how much they've increased. Balducci said she was incensed that she had not been asked for the money and that some council members were seeking it for election mailers or flyers in the campaign cycle. She's right, by the way. She is right. But can you do Homos Inc.? Can you guys see how much money you're wasting in that? When you have spent billions of dollars and the problem has only gotten worse? Can you look at any of your DEI programs? She's not wrong about this, but at the same time, can you look at Sound Transit? You love wasting money. You are not the fiscal conservative. She is just doing this to get your vote. That's what she's doing. She said, I asked, why are you giving us this extra money? We were told that some offices want to do additional mailers to their districts and didn't have enough money. I find this very unusual and very concerning because we have rules and ethical standards about when we do mailers, when people are up for election. It appears that this funding was specifically to fund council members' offices who are running for election. So what's she mad? That Gourmet Zahile is going to use this money for campaign mailers to run against her. Now, she'll have the money as well, but at the same time, why should any of them get money to spend on election campaigns? Last time I checked, that's an ethics violation. She provided emails to show that a few days after that, she wrote an email to Zahile and senior staff, reading, on behalf of her District 6, we do not need an extra allocation of funding because we are living within our budget and would request that the funding be put to a better use. She said it could be used to pay for 1 or 2 staff members to work on important projects. We're talking about cutting prosecuting attorneys who work on serious cases. We're talking about cutting programs that prevent crime. You see who she's trying to sound like? She's trying to sound like us because she's trying to get your votes. This is the same kind of nonsense that Bruce Harrell did when he was running for election the first time. When asked if she thought it was a waste of money, Balducci didn't hesitate. She told Como News, I do. But the allegation has upset some people inside the King County Council offices who spent Friday downplaying the issue. Como News reached out to every single council member asking for an explanation for their use of the $35,000. Reagan Dunn, Sarah Perry, Jorge Barron, Rod Dombrowski, and Zahile all responded in short order. Teresa Mosqueda, Deshaun Quinn, and Pete Von Reichbauer did not. Zahile declined to do an on-camera interview and was clearly upset about the allegation when reached by phone. He told Como there is nothing more desperate than a political stunt by Claudia member Balducci. The $35,000 adjustment to district offices' budgets was a simple internal reallocation, moving funds from one underspent administrative account to another, all within the legislative branch's existing approved budget. No new taxpayer dollars were added. Well, then how about refunding some of them? And how about cutting some of them? And saying we shouldn't be spending on this at all. You know what? I think now's the time. They both want the conservative vote. No problem. Let's reach out and get them on the show. They've refused every time we've asked them up until now. Let's get them on the show. Let's do that. I got some questions for both of them. He said the change was proposed by nonpartisan staff, unanimously approved by the entire Employment Administration Committee, and intended to help council offices managing rising operational costs. Hang on, dude. You're in charge of some of that. It doesn't matter who proposed it. You should say, this is dumb. That's what leadership is all about. But you see what it really comes down to. He says she's trailing in fundraising, endorsements, and grassroots support for her campaign for county executive. So instead of offering a positive vision, she's turning to baseless attacks. The public should be clear-eyed. Despite promises of a positive campaign, her political stunts will continue to escalate as her campaign struggles. He is not wrong, by the way. But that means the socialist is about to win? Great. Fantastic. Reagan Dunn, friend of the show, said his office doesn't need the money. He said, we never even knew it was happening and did not request any adjustment for our budget. I do not serve on that committee. Last year, we gave back $41,338 from our 2023-2024 budget to taxpayers, and we had given back money every year that I know of the last 10 years anyway. In short, we don't expect to need that money for my office. Perry's chief of staff said Councilmember Perry's office didn't request the additional money either. So then I have a question. If none of these guys asked for this money, then why, oh why, did Gourmet allocate it? It should have said, let's cut it from the budget and save money. Oh, because he's a socialist. And they don't believe in not spending money. So they're just going to keep spending and spending and spending, even if it's on things that might be ethically questionable regarding elections. Hey, how about you guys do something about the affordability around here and stop blowing our money? Sorry, crazy idea. I saw this article out of Los Angeles, and I said, how long till one of these fools proposes it at the King County Council? How long till one of these fools proposes it in the Washington State Legislature? How long until one of these fools proposes it in Seattle? Los Angeles approves $30 minimum wage for airport and hotel workers. So you guys approve that, which means now Seattle's not going to be $20 minimum wage. It's going to be $30 minimum wage. It's going to be $40 minimum wage. It's going to be $100 minimum wage. And we know where this leads. More automation. That's what's going to happen. The Los Angeles City Council on Wednesday approved a $30 an hour minimum wage hike for the airport and hotel workers, which will be enacted by 2028 in time for the Olympics. City Council members approved the measure in a 12-3 vote. Well, that should tell you how many people have common sense on the council. 3. A grand total of 3. While union officials praised the approval, those working in the hospitality industry vigorously opposed the legislation and warned that the pay increase would result in mass layoffs, increased costs for consumers, and hotels shutting down. Can we back up for a second? They imposed these minimum wage increases in California, and it was shutting down restaurants. They did it for restaurant workers, and hundreds of restaurants started closing down. Another Gavin Newsom failed policy. So now you want to do this for all these hotel workers too? What do you think is going to happen to the hotel industry? They haven't exactly had it good the past few years. This may be the thing that actually closes a lot of people that are holding on by their fingernails to their business. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Ben in SeaTac. Ben, what's going on?
Hello, Ari. Well, the media is not talking about what I think is a big reason why Trump is doing so well with his Middle East trip with the Arab states. It's because the Arab states are not a big fan of the mullahs of Iran. While the Biden administration was making kissy face as much as he could, unfreezing assets, got the Russian-approved Iran nuclear deal going again. Trump's putting massive pressure on Iran, and that's why I think the Arabs are warming up so much to Trump, is because we got a real president who's not going to let these mullahs dominate the Middle East.
I think you're right, but let's back up a second. Let's go back to Trump term 1. What happened was, actually, we got to give credit to Barack Obama. Barack Obama and Joe Biden, when they were together in office, Barack Obama and Joe Biden made the Middle East such a dangerous place by all those billions of dollars given to Iran, pallets of cash in the middle of the night, the Iran nuclear deal, which is basically, we'll pay you, but don't develop nuclear weapons, pretty please, because we know how well that worked out when Bill Clinton did that with North Korea. So they decided, let's try the exact same thing. And of course, Iran was funding terror, and the Middle East became an absolute war zone. So what happened is they said the only ones who could take on Iran is really Israel. They're the only ones that are going to do it. So we'd rather be friends with Israel, and we'd rather do business with Israel. We'd rather be friends with America, and we'd rather do business with America. And that way it'll be a shield against Iran, who we don't like very much anyway. So if you noticed, Donald Trump saved his buddies for last. The UAE and Donald Trump have been buddies for years now. They were one of the original signers of the Abraham Accords. That's how you got the Abraham Accords. Joe Biden and Barack Obama made the Middle East such a disaster that everybody wanted to fight against Iran. You're 100% right, Ben. That's exactly what happened. Donald Trump knows this, so he goes to everybody reasonable, but also this time he did something else. He said to Syria, he said to Lebanon, he even said to Iran, you want to be at the cool kids table? You want to make a lot of money? You want to be rich and famous? You want to be in the lifestyles of the rich and famous? Or you want to continue being terrorists? The choice is yours. One way, you get very, very rich and have all this great stuff. The other way, we're going to blow you off the face of the earth. Yeah, Ben, you're exactly right.
Well, I also think, too, is that the Democrats are very anti-Israel, so I don't think they were going to do anything that would help Israel. The far left in the Democrat Party is just as anti-Israel as Hamas or anything else out there that wants Israel gone.
Do you know why they're anti-Israel? Because they're anti-Israel because they're anti-Western civilization. They're anti anything that's democracy.
Oh, yeah.
They're anti anything that's American. And Israel is Israel, but Israel is also very Western civilization. They are our outpost there in the Middle East, and they don't want that. Now, mind you, if they look at Riyadh, they might go, there's more Starbucks there than there are in Seattle these days, and they actually look pretty and clean and don't have broken windows and Antifa logos sprayed on them. Ben, appreciate the call, appreciate the perspective. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 5757. Meanwhile, Washington State is joining yet another lawsuit. Nick Brown has joined 19 other state attorneys general in filing 2 separate lawsuits against the Trump administration. They challenge the federal threats to withhold funding from states that do not assist with the federal government's immigration enforcement efforts. The first lawsuit targets the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the Department of Homeland Security, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. The second lawsuit is directed at the Department of Transportation and DOT Secretary Sean Duffy. According to Brown's office, both agencies have imposed sweeping new conditions that would force states and state agencies to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement. If they refuse, they risk losing billions in federal funding used to protect public safety and maintain critical infrastructure. Let's do this again, shall we? Because when they first cut it off, one, Sound Transit wastes billions of dollars. They're wasting it because they know the feds will just keep giving them money. Stop it. Two, with regard to the homeless and public safety, as they're calling it. No, it's really dealing with the homeless. Let's give all the homeless people free stuff. That'll disincentivize them from being homeless, right? Right? Well, it hasn't worked so far, so you want to continue doing this? If Nick Brown, the Democrats, just didn't have their stupid sanctuary state laws, sanctuary city laws, this wouldn't be a problem. If you comply with federal law, you won't have an issue. This is how desperate they are to keep the illegal immigrant criminals in our state. The murderers, the child murderers, the rapists, the child molesters, the drug dealers, the human traffickers. This is how desperate they are to keep them in the state, or this is how desperate they are for the federal funding. You want the federal funding? Obey the law. It's not about the federal funding. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want the illegal immigrants to be here. On Monday, there's a hearing on this motion to dismiss against the illegal immigrant who killed Trooper Gadd, the Washington State trooper who was sitting in a speed trap on the side of the road when this illegal immigrant plowed into him at 100 miles an hour while drunk and high, driving a car at 3 a.m. They're trying to dismiss it, as we discussed earlier in the week. Why? Because the prosecutor's office reached out to ICE and said, we're worried some judge is going to reduce his bail and then he'll be free to walk the streets. We want you to get him. They're saying because they didn't comply with the sanctuary state law, the sanctuary city law, that they should dismiss the entire case. This is insane. There is one upside, by the way, one upside if that case does get dismissed. Not injustice, not anything else. People might finally see how insane these sanctuary laws are, how crazy they really are. If this thing does get dismissed, and we've got people in the courtroom on Monday, if this thing does get dismissed, there's going to be holy hell. A Washington State trooper, the guy who killed a Washington State trooper, had the charges dismissed against him, even though he should have been kicked out of the country multiple times beforehand, but he had the charges dismissed against him because of sanctuary state laws, sanctuary city laws. This is another 80-20 issue. And as always, the Democrats are on the exact wrong side of the issue, fighting for the guy who killed a Washington State trooper who had a 2-year-old daughter. That's who they're advocating for, as opposed to advocating for you. They're advocating to keep the money train rolling for this failed transit projects, to keep the money train rolling for Homeless Inc. and illegal immigrants, but not for you. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. On the lighter side, when we come back, it's Donald Trump versus Taylor Swift. A little bit of bad blood there would be my guess. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Don't forget, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and your last chance to win tickets to the Roy Pioneer Rodeo, my friends. In fact, young Zach is going to be talking about what's at the rodeo coming up during the Fake News Friday at 4:45. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. Why are we playing Tay-Tay on the show? Because Donald Trump has decided on Truth Social to start attacking Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen. I don't really get why. He had so many wins this week. Do we care about Taylor Swift? Do we care about the boss? Probably not. According to the U.S. Sun, the president took aim at the cruel summer singer after longtime critic Bruce Springsteen accused of his administration of being treasonous in a bitter speech in a Truth Social post on Friday. Trump came for the Kamala Harris-loving Swift and said, "Has anyone noticed that since I said I hate Taylor Swift, she's no longer hot?" Okay, guys, this is the kind of stuff I don't find funny. I know some people find this stuff funny. I just think it's juvenile. It's beneath you. It's below you. You're the president of the United States. Yeah, she's annoying. Yeah, I can't stand her. I know people like her music. She's not my taste. But you know what? You won. Kamala lost. You already won. He appeared to be referencing his reaction to Swift's gushing post about Harris ahead of the 2024 presidential election, where she described the failed candidate as a warrior and a gifted leader. How much was she paid for that? We know how much Beyonce and all those guys were paid. How much was Taylor Swift paid for that? Can't fault her for taking some money. I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we are led by calm and not chaos. Yeah, because the Biden administration was all kinds of calm. So calm, they were falling asleep the whole time, right? In fact, I saw this breaking on social media during the break. I haven't pulled it yet. Oh, look, it's up on the TV right now. It's got it right here. They're talking about the Biden audio was released from the Robert Hur interview. Is that what it was? That's what's going on here?
I don't know. I can't see the TV on my radio, Ari.
So what's happening is they're releasing the audio of the Robert Hur interview with Joe Biden, where he's a senile old man. I'm going to go looking for that during the commercial break, see if we can find that for the 5 o'clock hour. The problem is they usually release these things in like 10 or 20-minute things, and I got to see if I can even find some of it that's broken down. But remember what Robert Hur said about Joe Biden. He's a, what was it, sleepy old man? A nice, sweet, genteel old man? Something like that?
Something like that.
Sympathetic old man. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Who the jury would find sympathetic. That's what it was. So apparently they're releasing the audio of that. That's what's going on right now. We'll see what we can find on the interwebs. Trump and Swift had bad blood boiling when she broke her political silence to start endorsing Democrat candidates in 2018 during the president's first term. You know, it'd be one thing if she tweeted about him today. Bruce Springsteen went off on this whole tirade against him, which I get why you'd be mad about something like that, but Bruce Springsteen looks like Woody Allen these days. It's kind of sad. He doesn't look like Bruce Springsteen anymore. After her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, star player for the Kansas City Chiefs, lost the Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles, Trump invited the winning team to the White House for a celebration. In a brief speech to players, Trump relived the match saying, "I watched in person. I was there along with Taylor Swift." How did that work out, he said. Which is, you already won. You already won. You don't need to go after Taylor Swift. Just leave it alone. It's silly. Meanwhile, George Clooney was allegedly left shaken to his core after an uncomfortable face-to-face with former President Joe Biden during a star-studded fundraiser in 2024. Fox News obtained an excerpt from the upcoming book Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, its cover-up, and his disastrous choice to run again, by authors Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, who detail the terrifying moment in which the former president of the United States failed to recognize the Oscar award-winning actor after years of knowing each other. First of all, can we say once again, you have to take this entire book with a mountain of salt, because Jake Tapper was one of the people covering up Joe Biden's decline. And by the way, Jake Tapper has won. Jake Tapper has won. What has everybody been talking about for the last week? 2 weeks at this point. Jake Tapper's book. It's going to sell a gajillion copies unless everybody just reads them in the bathroom and then gives it to their next friend, because at this point, everybody wants to know all the dirt. You know, by now, we may have seen all the good stuff. You may read the book and there's nothing left because he gave you all the good stuff. But he's a biased source. He helped cover it up, which is insane. So, Joe Biden didn't recognize George Clooney. Now, is this because he's an old man and he doesn't know what the kids are watching these days? No, because not that many George Clooney movies coming out a lot these days. He's doing theater right now, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, George Clooney, big star, don't get me wrong. Everybody recognizes George Clooney. It's the fact that they were friends for years and Joe Biden didn't recognize him. One insider claimed it was like watching someone who is not alive. It was startling, and we all looked at each other. It was so awful. By the time of the 2024 presidential race had started, Clooney had known Biden well for 15 years. He had last seen Biden on December 4th, 2022, when Clooney was in D.C. with his wife to be celebrated at the Kennedy Center honors. Biden looked older, sure, but in the East Room of the White House at the reception for the honorees, the president was playful and seemed cogent enough. That's the key word there. You know, Grandpa's getting old, but at the same time, he still knows everybody's names. Fast forward to 2024, and the authors claim Clooney, who was accompanied by Julia Roberts, immediately noticed Biden's physical decline the moment they saw him. Quote, the president appeared severely diminished, as if he's aged a decade since Clooney last saw him. He was taking tiny steps, and an aide seemed to be guiding him around by the arm. According to the book, Clooney felt a knot form in his stomach as the frail president approached him. Biden looked at him and said, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. You know, when old people do that, they repeat the same thing again and again. The aide said, you know, George. President said, yeah. Thank you for being here. That's what you say to somebody who's a friend? You know my problem with George Clooney? George Clooney called on Joe Biden to drop out of the race and endorsed Kamala Harris. If you were really that upset about it, you would have said, nobody should vote for anybody who's been covering this up. That would have been the honest thing to do. You could say, I'm not voting for Donald Trump, but I'm not voting for anybody who covered this up, and you're not getting my money either. Instead, what did he do? He ran and started getting all the money behind Kamala Harris. Got all the money over to Kamala Harris. Wrote that whole op-ed about how we have to endorse Kamala Harris, how we have to move on. That's the most disingenuous thing. All these people were lying to you. We had people lie to us before. They're dead to us. We don't have them back on the show. We don't do that. Right? We had one guest who was rude to Mike. That guy hasn't been back on the show since. We don't do that. That's how we roll around here. But the fact that you said, okay, Kamala, you covered all this stuff, but also, George, with your own two eyes, you looked at Kamala Harris and said, this is the one who's going to win? Can we be real about this for a second? I may have voted for Mitt Romney in the 2012 election. Did I think Mitt Romney was going to win? No way. Did I think that was actually going to happen? I may have voted for John McCain. Did I think John McCain was actually going to win? No, that was two back-to-back elections of, well, at least they're not Obama. That's what those, and that's why we lost. You look at Kamala Harris and you go, all right, we have a massive PR problem. George, you're in Hollywood. You should know better than this. You're good at marketing yourself. You hire people who are good at marketing you. You should know better than this. You take one look at Kamala Harris and you go, that's our champion? That's who's going to get us over the finish line? Are you kidding me? In other news out of Hollywood, Halle Berry did an interview the other day, and she doesn't think making 007 as a woman is the right thing to do. And she knows, because she was one of the worst Bond girls of all time. While serving on the jury for the Cannes Film Festival on Tuesday, the 58-year-old actress addressed the ongoing discussion about replacing the fictional spy with a woman in a future franchise. Mike and I litigated this some time ago. Mike had it right on the ball. Mike said it's likely they'll saturate the franchise. Not so much they're going to make James Bond a girl. They want to keep pumping out those James Bond movies. But then you'll have the spinoff of the James Bond girl or whatever it is, or James Bond Jr. I missed that stupid cartoon. I like that stupid cartoon. Or whatever else they'll do, M as a child, right? How M became M. Female M, male M, all the different M's. Behind the scenes. How MI6 came to be. Wait, we did that movie already with Ian Fleming. We did that movie. Ungentlemanly Warfare. We like that. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. We like that. That's probably what'll happen. But she said,
like that so much, get ready for a 10-part miniseries.
Right, exactly. That's what it's going to be.
No, there isn't. But
did they do a miniseries with Ian Fleming as the character?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that came out like 5-6 years ago already. Yeah. But meanwhile, I don't know. She says, I don't know if 007 should really be a woman. In 2025, it's nice to say, oh, it should be a woman, but I don't really know if I think that's the right thing to do. Yeah, I'm going to go with Holly Berry on this one. I'm not the biggest Holly Berry fan, but she's right. Why would you torpedo a successful franchise? No, like I said, I think Mike's 100% right. They're just going to saturate a successful franchise, so you turn it into something you don't recognize anymore, like the Star Wars. That's what, like the Marvel. That's probably what they'll end up. How did Q become Q? It's going to be all those kind of spin-offs.
6-part miniseries.
Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, children are dying in Washington because of a really bad Democrat policy, and they refuse to do anything about it. Travis Couture will be joining us to give us the latest info. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, yet another child is dead in Washington in a death that was avoidable, in a tragedy that was avoidable. And yet, the Democrats continue to resist on any efforts to deal with the Keeping Families Together Act. It doesn't actually keep families together. It kills children. What does it do? It prevents the state from removing kids in houses they shouldn't be in, where there are drugs, when there are dangers. And as a result, this is, I don't even know how many cases we've seen so far, where the death was preventable. Joining us now on the KVI studio line, one of the biggest champions to stop this insanity, Representative Travis Couture from Washington's 35th District. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Ari.
I wish it was under better circumstances, buddy, because we love talking to you. I mean, did you react the same way as I did as soon as I read this thing? I said, okay, I'm going to go down a few paragraphs and find out exactly what happened here, and then realize this was avoidable?
Yeah, absolutely it's avoidable, and it's heartbreaking. I mean, we're talking about when we talk about children, we're talking about mostly babies and toddlers. And I think the one you're talking about was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And you're right, it's totally preventable. It's all a result of what many judges, law enforcement officers, and social workers call the Dead Baby Bill, the Keeping Families Together Act. And it's got to stop. We have like an over 200% increase in needless child deaths. And the problem is, as we go through, the last couple of years trying to combat this and trying to fix it so that we could save some kids in our state from the hell of hard drug abuse, especially fentanyl. I'm starting to pick up more and more reasonable Democrats to kind of join the cause. It's taking some time, but we keep progressing down the path. But yet again, the Democrat leadership in the House of Representatives keeps killing anything related to fentanyl, anything related to helping kids. And then, of course, as you know, they went the other direction. Like, hey, if you're involved in a net nanny sting, like you've seen on Dateline, then, well, we're going to try to go lax on you and try to reduce the penalties for people who try to sexually assault children. And it just blows my mind that we allow this. But at the end of the day, it's the Democrat leadership in the House that keeps continuing to kill this bill because they think that the bill, which was House Bill 1092 to fix it, and other related bills as well, like updating the child endangerment laws to include fentanyl. They keep killing these things because they think it's an equity issue. They think it's a DEI thing, and it's not. When you have a disproportional amount of minority children being removed from homes, well, now you have a disproportional amount of minority children dying in their homes as a result of hard drug abuse, and including a lot of times, sadly, it's fentanyl or meth. And it's absolutely just squalid conditions. And if a parent is on a hard substance like fentanyl, they have lost all ability to bathe, nurture, educate, or care for their children. You know why? Because they've lost that ability to do that for themselves. What my bill would do was immediately remove the child for their safety and find a separate placement, maybe foster care, a good foster care home. And it would also give a pathway to try to save the parents' lives and get them the rehab that they need. And sadly, Ari, I mean, as you can probably as well, we can name many of the children involved in these cases, kids like Oakley Carlson, a little girl, or Ariel Garcia, who was stabbed over 50 times by his drug-abusing mother. These are things that we could have absolutely prevented, and it breaks my heart and it makes me sick that we can't seem to get this over the line. But I'm still hopeful. I'm still going to continue fighting it because we have to save these kids.
So then let's switch gears for a second, staying on the same topic, but switching gears over to how to get the pressure on the Democrats, because what happens every single time is that we fight it out and then they reject it for whatever reason, and they get distracted every time a new legislative session shows up with all the things they want to pass. How do we keep the pressure up for, more than 9 months until the next legislative session to say, hey, we got to do this? Do you think perhaps it's a marketing thing? Or maybe we got to take the show on the road and show how awful this is, show how bad it is, because it seems like the media isn't reporting a lot of these cases either.
Well, like I said, every session I seem to pick up a couple new Democrats who have seen the light. All Republicans in the House and the Senate in the state Capitol want to fix this and are on board. And we got some reasonable Democrats who are on board, but every year it seems to get more and more. What we need to do is to convince using the readily available public statistics, and sometimes that takes getting different constituents to talk to their Democrat legislators about the issue, because sometimes they don't want to hear it from me, or they don't want to hear it from Ari Hoffman on the radio. They maybe want to hear it directly from foster parents. They maybe want to directly hear it from law enforcement officers or judges or so on and so forth, or different people who have been impacted by this, because at this point we have some of the largest amount of drug overdoses and drug-related deaths in all of the nation. We're going the other way while the rest of the country is getting better. It's devastating. I mean, it was almost 3,600 drug-related deaths last year, Ari. I mean, that's more than a 9/11 event happening in our state every single year. I mean, that's disgusting. And we continue to do nothing. I mean, there was literally nothing done about fentanyl or hard drug abuse in this last 105-day legislative session, not one singular good thing. that was done. And it's sad because, we see a lot of the squalid and slow motion death on our streets. But what's even more nefarious is what's happening behind closed doors and oftentimes to our kids. And they deserve a second chance at life. But you know what? A lot of Democrats who are the most radical in Olympia, they look at those child fatality reports and all they see is a black redacted line, another government statistic for these kids. We have to humanize the issue. We have to know that we can save the life of a child and we can also save the life of the parent, but that doesn't mean keeping families together at any cost, especially when it means the death of a small child.
Representative Travis Couture from Washington's 35th District, thank you so much for fighting so hard to repeal this insanity. You've been the one leading the charge trying to save these kids. We can only hope that Democrats eventually wake up to what's going on. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Ari, and have a great weekend.
You too. When we come back, son, to put a smile.
You can rely on.
It's called fake news.
With Young Zach.
Educate yourself, you fool.
On the Ari Hoffman Show. Talk Radio 570 KVI.
With the most ridiculous timeline we live in right now, it's hard to tell the real news from the fake news. That's why we got Zach here from The Morning Show, which you can listen to The Morning Ride every single weekday from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Zach, what do you got for us?
Well, it's oral arguments have begun in the Diddy trial, so...
Oh, no, boo.
So that's gross.
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk to it.
Do you just look for an excuse every week to squeeze that in?
Yes.
Yeah.
On my bar of buttons, my button bar of fun sound effects, the Fake News Friday theme song is up at the top left, and right below it is the Hawk to us sound. So my thumb doesn't, I just, toggle one to the other.
It's right there. Mm-hmm. What else you got, Zach?
Well, a couple from the Babylon Bee. Home Depot adds self-deportation kiosks.
Oh, yes. Your deportation station.
Ay, ay, ay.
It's like those racist kiosks we spoke about at 3:15 today. Yeah.
What?
Oh, Zach wasn't here for the racist kiosks. Yes, racist kiosks. Apparently, the left in Seattle, Zach, you missed all this, is now calling these kiosks that are supposed to give you directions and tell you things about Seattle, calling them racist and white supremacy that they're installing in Seattle. Yeah, can't make this stuff up if I tried. What else you got?
Confusion is what I got. My God, I'm trying to be like Sublime, and love is what I got.
It turns out you're Sublime with Rome. It's not the same
thing as
the
Sublime.
with Rome part was written too small.
That's a joke for us and only us. But
okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
What else
the
you
guy
got?
from Sublime died. They replaced him with a look-alike, and
He doesn't even look like it. He's a big fat dude.
well, it's because he didn't do as much drugs.
Oh, right. Yes.
They got to
there
do
you
the
go.
drugs to look like Bradley.
And why he's still alive. Yes. What else you got, Zach?
Yeah. Another one from the Babylon Bee. RFK Jr. unveils new plan to end childhood obesity by chasing fat kids with a stick. I don't have a sound effect for chasing fat kids with a stick.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
I guess I have that. I don't know.
That's a stretch. What else
Best
you got?
I've got. They get a little bit yippy.
People were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy.
They get yippy.
Yes.
So anyway, last one from the Babylon Bee this week. Colorado Rockies accused of using performance-inhibiting drugs. They might be sky high. Maybe that's their problem.
There's no gravity up there.
You know what? Causation is not, correlation, causation,
There it
whatever
is. Correlation is not causation.
It's an
There you
early
go.
morning for me on the morning ride.
Very good. Very good.
Early in the morning.
So much Sublime. Oh, my goodness.
Not very sublime.
You get the Rockies and the Mariners. They both no good.
No good. No good.
Maybe John Carlson was onto something about not allowing the legalization of the devil's lettuce. Perhaps he was right.
See, whereas I prefer 40 ounces to freedom.
I smoke 2 joints in the morning, and I smoke 2 joints at night.
Right.
I don't. It's another Sublime
Yeah,
reference
no,
for those
I'm
at
with
home.
you. I'm with
There's
you.
some people
Yes.
with tapestries right now who are very happy.
Yes.
And I'm not talking Carole King albums. Am
Oh,
I
there
right?
you go. Nice.
Am
nice,
I right?
nice.
I feel the earth move under my feet.
Oh, that's pretty great.
See, that's more for the KVI.
Yes, there you go.
Less Sublime, more Carole King. That's
Yes.
Steve Moore's favorite. We play that a lot for him on the morning ride. But here's one from the Needling, also about the Mariners. ICE deports Mariner Moose back to Canada. Send them back.
Oh, man.
Send them back.
Poor
Rhubarb, the reindeer, down in the Rainiers territory. He's going back to the North Pole.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
To North Pole, Alaska, where they have actual reindeer that you can go see and go pet and stuff. It's pretty cool.
And like a beef jerky store on the way out?
Yes.
Sells reindeer jerky?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Delicious.
how
At
it
the old
goes.
at the old Santa Claus house. Something that's been going on in the news lately. Everything points back to a return of the Seattle Supersonics. Right? We got our good buddy, the senior.
That's a click.
So now that everything has to do with the return of the Supersonics, and we were watching a video the other day, I have to wonder, in a mascot fight, who would win, the Mariner Moose or the Squatch?
What's the Squatch?
He's a Sasquatch man, very furry.
I don't remember the Sonics.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's a Sasquatch
It's
man.
a Sasquatch. The
Sasquatch
mascot
man.
was a Sasquatch.
Well, they both beat out Doppler, or whatever his name is.
Who's Doppler?
He's the Seattle Storm mascot.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that.
He's like.
That sounds like a He-Man villain or something.
Well, I don't think they like
Doppler.
He-Man on the women's basketball team.
Yes, there you go.
But he's like
I
he's
know
like
what I said.
He's the weatherman. He's basically what's the Philadelphia
Fanatic.
No, the hockey guy.
I have no idea what that is.
Anyway, he's red, yellow. For the Seattle Sonics Doppler mascot is a red, yellow, fuzzy guy. I don't know. Looks kind of like a Muppet. Real nondescript. You guys don't even know about him. We work 2 blocks. We work 2 blocks from his office.
Sure.
Yeah. So
do you think Ari Hoffman goes to women's basketball games? We support women's sports until we don't. Send them back. Send them back.
I have been to 2 New York Liberty games.
Liberty?
I took the kids camp back in
You got the Limu, right?
Yes.
Doug.
Oh, I've been to 1 Storm game. I have been to 1 Storm game.
So you might remember your old pal Doppler.
no.
Okay. Well,
Also, though,
ever since Bowie
friends,
ghosted you, maybe you should pick a fight with
there
this
you
thing.
go. But also, Doppler.
Oh.
And we're back.
Point being, Doppler gets beat out immediately.
Okay, all right.
And I mean, I'm going to go with the Moose. The Moose has been good to me in all my years. I feel more invested in the Moose. I don't know if he'll win, but it's like, you know, I got to root for my guy.
Gloria, man.
Yeah, he's got the horns. He's got weapons.
He's got like knives and spikes on
You don't
his
even
head.
see the Sasquatch. What's his power? Just being sneaky? Blurry pictures? That's not a superpower.
Elusive.
Elusive. I'm taking the guy with horns.
There you go. There you go.
And access
Me
to a
too.
trident.
Ah, yes.
Isn't the mascot of the Puyallup Fair still a Sasquatch also?
That too.
Isn't that like copyright infringement or something?
I don't know who owns Sasquatches.
Nobody. They haven't caught
Nobody.
him. What else you got, Zach?
Well, this last one I got from the Cherry Swamp, which is a DC-based fake news outlet. It says McDonald's and DHS team up to offer free large fry with every self-deportation using the app.
Oh, I like that. Convenient.
Very good.
Also, your deportation station.
Yeah, speaking of deportation station, not really a segue, but anyway, you got some fun prizes this afternoon on Good News Giveaway.
Mike has been teasing this all week, but he kept saying that young Zach is an expert on the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. We are giving away 2 tickets to that at 5:45 today. Zach, what do you know about the rodeo?
Well, admittedly, not much about the rodeo, but I know a lot about Roy. This is young Zach's homecoming. I look forward to seeing all my friends and family who make the walk to the rodeo. It will be my last year. I was there too with our KVI. We're collecting signatures actually for I-2066, the natural gas ban.
Yeah.
A lot of natural gas customers out that way, I think, and so we were down there doing that. And I was not able to stay for the rodeo, so this remains. I'm going to stay for this one. This will be my first rodeo, which is fine and all. But I'm really looking forward to my second rodeo.
Oh my goodness!
And it won't be my first rodeo, but you know, I'll show these guys. Take these city boys down south. We'll show them Roy, all that has to offer. Look one way, look the other. That's all that has to offer. And then I will be taking them to the roundup.
Yeah.
And everyone from Roy knows. Ari is learning about this right now.
Yeah.
We are going to my favorite dive bar called the Roundup.
I'm down.
It's exactly
Let's
what
go.
it sounds like. You're down till you see it, and then Mike and I will be very happy, and Ari will be like in a suit or something. And
I don't go and wear a suit to the rodeo. I got a pair of boots that, get worn occasionally.
Good. Hope you're ready for some karaoke, because that's what they're known for.
I will karaoke. I
Good
like
nachos.
my karaoke.
Karaoke on a Sunday, I'll take it.
Anyway, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. The Roy Rodeo is a good time.
Fantastic. So we're giving away tickets to the Roy Rodeo at 5:45 today, along with other fantabulous prizes. Young Zach, thank you so much. As always, do appreciate it when we come back. Lots more from D.C. and, of course, Washington State. The latest insanity out of Seattle, too. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Bye.
That's right. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories on the Ari Hoffman Show, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and your last chance to win tickets to the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. But before we get to any of that, got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
Axios has released a portion of the audio from special counsel Robert Hur interviewing Joe Biden about the classified documents that they found at his home. Now, during the commercial break, I had a chance to listen to this. And during the commercial break, Mike pulled it and dumped in our audio. And I also had a chance to find this article. And it's like a time capsule right now. Before I play the audio for you, I want you to listen to this article from ABC. This is what they wrote when it came out. The account of President Joe Biden's memory is a striking and disputed part of a 345-page report issued Thursday by the federal prosecutor who spent a year investigating his handling of classified information while out of office. Special counsel Robert Hur wrote that his assessment of Biden's mental acuity and power of recall described as sparse, apparently hazy, and in one interaction so bad that the president could not recall, even within several years, when his oldest son had died, informed the decision not to recommend charges. Within hours of Hur's report being made public, Biden reported memory problems were attracting notice in the political arena and the media, including from Biden's critics. Hur's language also drew fierce rebuke from Biden's attorneys, who called it wrong and inflammatory. And Biden, reacting to the report later on Thursday, raised the specter of Hur's potential partisanship when he called Hur a Republican counsel, referring to the prosecutor's background. Broadly speaking, Hur concluded that no criminal charges are warranted after his investigation, which nonetheless uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified information after his vice presidency. They said at trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Do you remember that the Democrats immediately called a press conference for Joe Biden to prove he didn't have a bad memory, during which he showed how bad his memory was and how bad his decline was? And you remember him yelling at people, "How dare you? How dare you say I don't remember the day my son died? I wear a rosary," whatever. Well, now the audio's out, and Axios released it. Now, Axios is not my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. Why did Axios release this? Every media outlet, from the mainstream legacy media, is going to try to prove we're the ones who exposed it. If you can get a White House Correspondents' Award for admitting that it was covered up and that we covered it badly, we want to be the next ones to expose it. All of them helped cover this up. This is bigger than Watergate. This is bigger than any presidential scandal. Why? Because it shows that the commander-in-chief was not even in command of his own faculties. It shows that Joe Biden had no idea what was going on in his own mind, let alone what was going on in the rest of the country. This is 4 minutes and 25 seconds of absolute cringe and the biggest cover-up in American history that we know about. That's how bad this is. I'm going to play it for you in its entirety. Give a listen.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer booster shot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working?
Stop. I'm going to stop it right here. This isn't edited in any way, shape, or form. This is the 4-minute rambling, incoherent monologue in response to the question of, where did you keep the documents? That's the question. Where did you keep the documents? Now listen to Joe Biden's answer.
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying.
Stop. No, that's not actually true. Beau Biden died on May 30th, 2015, 2 years before this. I'm not going to say it's not awful, but at the same time, it is nowhere near these events. Joe Biden left office in 2017. His documents were moved in late January 2017.
And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. That's not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I might run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And
hang on a second. Hang on. He wasn't asked about running. He's confusing campaign questions with where did you put the documents? He said that Obama told him not to run for president. He just said that. Remember what the original question was? The original question was, where did you keep the documents? We are now almost 2 minutes into this recording, and he still hasn't even gotten within orbit of answering that question. Here we go.
And so what was happening, though, what month did Beau die? May 30th, 2015. Was it 2015 he died? 2015. I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months are, but I think that was
His lawyer is sitting next to him, giving him the answers. Do you remember that Joe Biden got mad at reporters for saying it says, I think it was Peter Doocy. I have to go back and double check, but I think it was Peter Doocy who said, sir, they said you couldn't remember when your son died. And Joe Biden was, how dare you? Of course I know the day my son died. He can't remember that, let alone what the original question actually was. Where did you keep the classified documents?
That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, what did 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Okay. Remember when the report said he couldn't remember when he left office? That's his lawyer telling him when he left office. You can't remember when you stopped being vice president of the United States? I assume that's a pretty consequential date, especially since you've been around since the Civil War, and you might know when a vice president typically leaves office. You can't remember when Trump won? You can't remember when your son died? And they were covering up all of this. We ain't done yet. We got 2 minutes left to go.
But that's when Trump gets sworn in.
Right, correct.
Okay, yeah. And in 2017, Beau had passed, and this is personal. The genesis of the book and the title, Promise Me Dad, was I know you're all close with your sons and daughters, but Beau was like my right arm, and that was my left. These guys were a year and a day apart, and they can finish each other's sentences.
Okay. He said, Bo was like my right arm, Hunter, was like my left. Very sad that his son died. We are now 3 minutes into this recording. We have 1 minute left. The original question was, where did you keep the classified documents? So far, he has not come anywhere near answering that question. He has also not remembered when his son died, not remembered when he left office, not remember when Trump won. Do you realize that everything that was in that report is in this 4-minute clip? Every single thing they said is in this 4-minute clip. Everything Robert Hur wrote was in this clip. And the media denied it. And the Democrats denied it. Everybody denied it. Let's finish this thing off.
Bo, I used to go home on the train in the period that I was still in the Senate. Anyway, if you remember.
You know, this actually breaks my heart. Forget the cover-up for a second. My grandfather didn't have all his faculties at the end of his life. And I recognize the same behavior. You go off on a tangent. You think that's what you're talking about because you remember a word or you think you heard the last word you said. So he went off, started answering questions about Beau Biden because he was trying to claim originally he was distracted by Beau Biden's death, which had been 2 years beforehand. And he remembered that he talked about Beau, but he didn't remember the initial question. So he just keeps talking about Beau again and again and again. No wonder Hur said he wasn't going to press charges. You put this guy up in the witness box? This is what a jury is going to see. They're not going to find him guilty, but at the same time, you put this up in front of the American people. They're never going to vote for him. And the Democrats tried to hide this as long as they could until they couldn't anymore with the debate. They kept jacking him up with whatever drugs or whatever it was they were doing to him to make him cogent. And whether they overdosed him or the drugs couldn't actually do their job the night of that debate against Trump, this is what the real Joe Biden was behind closed doors. He wasn't sharp. He wasn't spry. He didn't ask amazing questions. This is what Joe Biden was behind closed doors.
There was not pressure. Beau knew how much I adored him. And this sounds, maybe it sounds so, everybody knew how close we were. There was not anybody in the world who wondered whether or not, anyway. And so...
Sir, I'm wondering if this is a good time to take a break. Briefly.
No, let me just keep going to get it done.
You know, I got to say something with Robert Hur. That's a classy move at the end there. That's a really classy move for a guy who's supposed to be prosecuting you. This isn't partisan, by the way. You realize the guy just gave you a 4.5-minute rambling, non-coherent, nonsensical answer, and you say, maybe you want to take a break, sir? Clearly this is, getting to you. Clearly this is Robert Hur, class act seems to be, at least, in these hearings. But wow, just wow. Let me read again from the Hur report. At trial, Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with poor memory. Robert Hur saw the same thing I saw. Saw somebody who's old, who's not with it anymore, and felt bad for him. But America doesn't elect this guy. But the Democrats kept trying to keep the grift going as long as they possibly could. This is the movie Dave in real life. For those of you who've never seen the movie Dave with Kevin Kline, here's what happens. President has a stroke. They bring in a double to be the president, as opposed to saying, hey, the president had a stroke. Joe Biden cannot do the job. Why do you think they didn't have any cabinet meetings? Because otherwise, maybe somebody on that cabinet had a conscience. Oh, who am I kidding? And they would have called up and they would have said, we're invoking the 21st. We're removing this guy from office. Because he can't do the job. Do you remember the last cabinet meeting they had? Was October 4th, 2023, 3 days before October 7th. And they didn't have one up until Jill Biden showed up right before the end of his time in office? That was it. They didn't have cabinet meetings. AutoPen, MIA, beach vacations, 40% of his time on vacation, no pressers, no interviews, pressers where he was given index cards with not just the questions, but the answers and the names and the faces of the reporters he'd be calling on. This is a massive scandal. The media wants to try and be heroes now because they're finally covering what we all saw. It's not about Joe Biden falling downstairs of Air Force One. Gerald Ford did that, and he wasn't senile. Other presidents have done that. You know what? It's rainy. It's slippery. You remember Donald Trump, what was it, the West Point graduation where he's very slowly tiptoeing down that ramp because he doesn't want to fall? Donald Trump almost completely slipped when he got in that garbage truck. You remember that? It's not about falling down the steps of Air Force One. I keep coming back to the same mental image every single time. Do you remember it? For those of you watching the live stream on Facebook, on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, I'm going to recreate it right now. So I got my binder here. What was it? It was Joe Biden after the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. And he's in that big room answering all the questions from the press. And he takes his binder, which has all the answers in it, and he puts his head down like this, like he'd rather be anywhere else, like he'd rather be watching Murder, She Wrote or anything, like with a warm Milky somewhere, and he's just hiding from the press, just hiding from the press. Do you remember that? That's the image that sticks in my mind. Was that the moment the Biden administration knew they had a problem? Or did they know they had a problem long before that? And they kept it hidden from the American public because anything's better than Donald Trump in their minds. So they covered for Joe Biden throughout the entire 2020 campaign, covered for him completely, propped him up, and he was probably more spry then. But we've seen the pictures, the before and after pictures of what being president does to you. Look at Barack Obama. What was he, like 45 when he went into office, something like that? And afterwards, he looked like he was 60 because of what happened to his hair. He looks better these days. He does. Give him credit. He looks better now. He's had some time to chill out. That office ages you. What does it do to a guy who's not there to begin with? This is a massive... People need to go to jail. People need to go to jail. Forget the James Comey stupidity for a second, okay? 86-47. Enough of that. Stop with that. Kamala Harris needs to go to jail. The cabinet needs to go to jail. Joe Biden was not running the country. Our founders and framers put into the Constitution something that would make sure that if the president wasn't up to the job, his cabinet, including his vice president, would assume the office, specifically for things like this. And the Democrats kept it hidden. And the media helped them. No matter how much you hate the media, you don't hate them enough. This is a massive scandal. Why do you think they drop it on a Friday? You think you're going to burn yourselves out over the weekend? No, my friends. This is going to be top news on Monday. But a lot of people aren't going to see it because CNN, MSNBC, are they actually going to cover it? Yeah, because they're trying to get back in the good graces of the American people who have no confidence in them at all anymore. At all. Are you shook by this? Are you shaken by this? It's amazing that I'm still shook by this, but not surprised. Not surprised at all. Yet still, this is startling. This massive cover-up being revealed before our eyes. What's the spin going to be? Do you think the media is going to hammer on the Biden administration, hammer on Kamala Harris? Of course not. They want Kamala to be governor of California. What do you think the media is going to do? What do you think the Democrats are going to do? Oh, we're looking forward. We're looking forward. We're looking forward. That's what they're going to keep saying. What do you think they're going to do in response to this? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, speaking of Democrats, RFK Jr. gets scoffed at after calling for unity. Yeah, do we even want to be united with the Democrats anymore after this is revealed? But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, and your last chance to win tickets to the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. That's right, my friends. We're going to be out there. We're going to be having a great time. KVI is going to be out there for both days of the rodeo. I'm going to be there on Sunday. We're going to have Mike out there. Zach's going to be out there. Phil's going to be out there. Even Mr. KVI himself. Going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you're listening at 5:45 for your last chance to win this week. I'm still shook by that Biden thing. I really, really am. It's really gotten to me. You know, my grandfather is one of the most brilliant men I ever met. I talk about him a lot on the show. Really, one of the most brilliant men I ever met in my life. This guy had a degree in engineering. He had a degree in law. He went to Yale. This is a guy who, just a brilliant mind, absolute brilliant mind. And at the end, it was very, very sad that he didn't really have his mind anymore. My wife's grandfather, one of the other most brilliant men I ever knew. It was amazing that at the end, he didn't have all his physical capabilities, but he still had his mind. Still had his mind. And that was a blessing, a real blessing. you look at what the you know what? You know who I'm mad at? Jill Biden. I am furious at Jill Biden. If my wife did that to me, Mike, can you imagine this? Okay, let's do a comparable for a second here. 77-year-old Ari Hoffman is still on air, but Mike notices that I've lost a step or two, right? And then my wife goes, you know what? We still need the income, so we got to keep him on air. How can we do that? Can we get him a really big teleprompter? Well, he can't read so well. Can we put a giant TV over there where the glass is right now? In fact, Mike, can you put the whole show together for Ari from now on? And he's just going to read, because Hoffman reads what's on the teleprompter. You put the wrong thing on the teleprompter, he'll read it. So Mike, you got to make sure that's what it is. And eventually people are going to go, wait, hang on. What are we listening to here? It doesn't sound like Ari anymore. It kind of sounds like Mike wrote this.
Yeah, so much toy legislation. My goodness.
Why is Ari talking about Transformers all the time? What's going on here? But that's what we're talking about. But it was the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief. You want to know why America was weak on the world stage? Because of Joe Biden. That's what we're looking at. Democrats will never, ever, ever admit they were wrong. Listen to what happened when RFK Jr. the other day asked for us to start working together.
Anybody thinks that we did gold standard medicine in this country from these institutions, look at our children. They're the sickest children in the world. Lori, you say that excuse me, Congressman DeLauro, you say that you've worked for 20 years on getting food dye out. Give me credit. I got it out in 100 days.
I'll give you that credit.
All right, so let's work together and do something that we all believe in, which is have healthy kids in our country, for God's sake. We can all do that together. It's not, there's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. There's just kids, and we should all be concerned with them.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Dean.
So here's something about that. I've never been RFK Jr.'s biggest fan. I haven't been. We've talked about it on the show before. There's things I like about him. There's things I really don't like about him. Killing bears and dumping the bodies in Central Park, that's a little weird. But at the same time, the guy clearly is passionate about this and clearly means well. This is a guy who wants to fix a problem. How many Democrats do you think are actually going to end up working with him? And here's something crazier. Did you notice how he had to correct himself, that he was calling them by their first names and not calling them congressman, congresswoman, whatever it is? He was friends with all of them until they rejected him. These are his friends, and there's no grace whatsoever. You know, we have friends in this industry that we compete with. We're all still friends. I can't even imagine cooking somebody in this industry that I'm friends with. We're still friends. That's still your friend. But politics? Do this to somebody? And really, let's focus on what's important here. Kids ain't doing well. The kids ain't doing well. Look at the medical problems they have. And by the way, maybe one of our medical friends can answer this one for me. I've asked a bunch of times. Why are kids all of a sudden allergic to peanuts? Where did that come from? How did that happen? They didn't seem to be allergic to peanuts when I was a kid. They had other weird allergies. There's always a kid with a weird allergy. But these random things that are coming up all of a sudden, and they're coming up en masse. Sure, we had kids that were a little off or something else, but the amount of autism we're seeing these days, does nobody want to find out why that is? We may actually have an opportunity here because Donald Trump is not beholden to big pharma. I wish that members of Congress, both Republican and Democrat, wore jumpsuits that said who they were sponsored by. I wish they looked like NASCAR drivers. I really did. Because then you know exactly whose interests they're supporting. You know, there's Republicans who are pushing back against the big, beautiful bill. And there are some who are pushing back because they want more cuts. And there are some who are pushing back because they don't want to tick off their sugar daddies, which is beyond upsetting to me. These are supposed to be the ones who said we need the cuts. And when Moody's downgrades the U.S. credit rating because they don't think anybody's actually going to cut the spending, they're not wrong. Yeah, Republicans are making some cuts around the edges. Unless you make real cuts, this country's going to go bankrupt. That's what's going to happen. This country will go bankrupt. And it's our kids and our grandkids who will be paying the tab for this out-of-control spending, just like right here in Washington. When we come back, Rashida Tlaib was crying on the House floor. We'll tell you what these crocodile tears were all about. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. If you haven't checked out KVI.com recently, you really should. We've been putting up a lot more content. Mike's been putting up stuff. I've been writing articles. Phil and Zach have been putting up stuff. Check out KVI.com. And, of course, while you're there, subscribe to become a KVI insider. You should also download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe to the show on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Well, Rashida Tlaib, the congresswoman from Hamas, was on the floor of the House of Representatives, and she was talking about how she wanted a resolution to honor the Nakba. What's the Nakba? Nakba means disaster. Disaster was 77 years ago. What's that? When all the Arab countries surrounding Israel said from the river to the sea and tried to kill a nation of Holocaust survivors and farmers and failed. They call it the disaster because they failed in committing a mass genocide. So they call the creation of the state of Israel the Nakba, the disaster. This weekend, Nakba weekend. In fact, I heard that the Looney Tunes are planning on protesting at Westlake Center. So if you're trying to get home from work right now and you're within the sound of my voice, avoid downtown Seattle. I will be avoiding downtown Seattle to get home today because I hear that all the Looney Tunes plan on protesting. Though yesterday, they said they were going to protest. They said they wanted to not go to work and protest capitalism and spending because of the Nakba. And I didn't see any protests going on around here. Whatever. Anyway, they say they plan on doing it again. So she's on the floor of the House of Representatives advocating for the destruction of the state of Israel. She didn't get any support for her crazy legislation. But I want to show you how these are crocodile tears. I want you to listen to her crying, calling for the genocide of Jews. And then I want you to hear the end of it, where immediately she turns off the waterworks and pivots over to her next progressive cause. Give a listen.
I pray that the ongoing Nakba against the Palestinians will end. And one day they will be free. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about something that's happening right here in our backyard in regards to the Congressional Mamas Caucus, though.
The Congressional Mamas Caucus. Yes. Well, that's quite the pivot there, isn't it? Crocodile tears. You know who's sincere? You may not like him. You may not love him. But you know who's always sincere and always says exactly what's on his mind? President Trump. President Trump just had a really successful trip to the Middle East. And you know why Rashida Tlaib is freaking out? Because everybody in the Middle East is figuring out that peace in the Middle East does not come from the resolution of the Palestinian question or a two-state solution or anything like that. It comes with who wants peace versus who wants to rape, torture, and murder 1,200 people and kidnap 250 more. That's what this all comes from. President Donald Trump did an amazing, amazing job on this Middle East trip. I give him an A. I give him an A. If not for that airplane business, he'd get an A+. He hasn't accepted it yet. If he formally doesn't accept it, then he gets the A+. He did an amazing, amazing job. Because what was his priority? Here's what he told our troops in Qatar.
As president, my priority is to end conflicts, not start them, but I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States of America or our partners. And this is one of our great partners right here. When we're threatened, America's military will answer our enemies without even thinking about it. We have overwhelming strength and devastating force.
So he's saying, you want to be our partner or you want to be on the other side of things, which is just great. Then he gives this compliment to the troops, which I love.
But the real strength of our military doesn't come from its fighter jets. It really comes from our people. That's you. It comes from our people. You're unbelievable people. The aptitude and all of the things you have to do what you do. You know, I look at some of those engines, and I'm a pretty smart cookie. I would tell you I'm real smart. And I look at you, and you take those engines apart and put them back together, blindfolded, and fix them up. It's amazing what you're able to do. And then to fly them, just incredible. You're incredible. You're a very special group of people. And that's why in my 2026 budget includes across the board. Maybe you don't want it. Look, for the good of the country, you don't have to take it. Pay raises for each and every one of you, substantial pay raises. But you don't have to take it.
I love the sense of humor, too. And the crowd went nuts. I absolutely love the sense of humor. In fact, speaking of the sense of humor, this line, hey, I make similar jokes myself.
And I'll tell you just a little story. A week ago, May 8th, I'd call up a certain country, and they said, oh, we're celebrating the victory of World War II today, sir. Oh, really? I'd speak to one of the presidents or prime ministers or whatever. And they were so busy. Oh, yes, we're celebrating the victory of World War II. Then I speak to another one, and they were celebrating. And the fact is, Russia was celebrating. France was celebrating. Everybody was celebrating but us. And we're the ones that won the war. We won the war. And they helped. But without us, they don't win the war. We're all speaking German. You know that, right? Without us, they're speaking German, maybe a little Japanese, too. We won the war, and we're the only ones that didn't celebrate. So what I did is I got my crack staff over there, and we did it every time. We have May 8th, and we also have the date in November, that sacred date in November for World War I, because we won that war, too.
He's 100% right. He's 100% right. We really don't do things the way other countries do. What do we do on Memorial Day? We go to the beach. We go see the latest Marvel movie. That's what we do on Memorial Day, and there's nothing wrong with doing that kind of stuff, but it's night and day from the way other countries celebrate this kind of stuff. It really is night and day. Actually, J.D. Vance said some nice stuff also when he was speaking this weekend.
Law is the root of ordered liberty in the United States. It is the foundation of a peaceful society. A nation of laws gives certainty to its citizens. It enables them to participate in civic life, to work and raise families, to build a business, all with the assurance that they have a consistent and dependable legal system that will keep them safe as they work every day to realize their dream.
Do we have that here in Washington? Sure doesn't feel like it. Sure feels like we have the complete opposite. It was so refreshing to hear that from somebody in government. Not the Democrats who were kneeling during the BLM riots. Do you remember that picture? I'll never get it out of my mind. You've got Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi all kneeling in the Capitol with their African scarves, kneeling before the rioters. Kamala Harris bailing out the rioters because they can live in their little ivory towers. They weren't dealing with what we were dealing with in Seattle. Do you remember in 2020 you weren't sure where you could go because you never knew when a protest would randomly shut down a highway, a freeway, a street, wherever you were going during the summer of love? Do you remember that nonsense? I remember one time they were starting to form like a little protest. I said, and just hit the gas and went before I had to deal with any of that nonsense. I just, no, absolutely not. Law and order. Law and order. Who are the states that are pushing back against that? The ones that want to remain sanctuary states. What? For who? For the illegal immigrant terrorists? The gang members? The criminals? That's who they're standing up for? It is so great to actually have the adults back in the room. The adults back in charge. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, plus so much more. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode, another amazing week of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you. This one, we spoke a little bit yesterday about Yuval Raphael. She's the one competing on behalf of Israel in Eurovision. Last year, when Idan Golan was the one who was competing on behalf of Israel, you had protesters. You could hear the booing in the background. Kudos to Eurovision, by the way. Because Eurovision, and I'm not the biggest fan of Eurovision, a lot of that is too techno for me, too much kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my jam. Oh, you couldn't even hear it through the microphone?
You sound like my cat trying to, like, throw up or something. What is going on? You okay, pal?
Yeah, no, I'm doing all right.
Drink more water.
It's a little bit too much of boots and cats and kind of stuff. No, none of that for me. So, anywho, you have Yuval Raphael has made it to the finals. And what's amazing is they do the same performance every night, the people in Eurovision. It's the same song every time. It's not like American Idol where they do different songs in each night and you want to see who's the best singer in doo-wop or pop or rock or whatever. It's not that. It's the exact same song every time. There's this part in her performance where she turns around and the audience is behind her. If they had done that last year, it would have been all the Palestinian flags and the protests. She turns around and everybody's holding up their cell phones like at a normal concert. Give a listen. Okay, so now why am I so excited about this? Not just because she's from Israel. She survived October 7th. She survived by hiding under the bodies of her friends at the Nova Festival. And now she's on stage at Eurovision in the finals. Now, personally, I'm pretty biased on this one. I admit my biases. But also, I listen to the rest of that European stuff. It's not my jam. It is not made for me. Look, this song in particular isn't even especially, but I can recognize talent. This woman clearly has the talent and clearly has been through a lot. I think she should win on her merit, but her story is amazing. It really is truly incredible. Then I saw this one here, this one from Fox News. Brianna Bortner says her dog had a hand or a paw in saving her life. She said, I always heard stories that when people say that their dogs could sense things, the Minnesota woman said. She said in 2023, she discovered a lump in her breast. There were about 6 weeks between the discovery and the biopsy, she recalled. During this time, Bortner's cockapoo, Mochi, became fixated with the lump. This behavior became a surprise to her. The dog had never behaved that way before. She said, even when I had been sick in the past or dealt with other things, he had never done that. So it was the first time I really noticed how in tune he was to my body. The results of the biopsy soon confirmed that Bortner had breast cancer, but she said she already knew because of the dog. She said the dog's known this entire time. Doctors diagnosed Bortner with stage 2B, triple-negative invasive ductal carcinoma, a type of breast cancer that has fewer treatment options than other types of invasive breast cancer. But this is because the cancer cells do not have certain types of receptors that allow them to be treated with hormone therapy. But if the cancer is not spread to distant sites, surgery is an option. And luckily, thanks to the dog, she caught it soon enough. I like those kind of stories. Always good stuff. One more here for you for the weekend. A group of courageous Good Samaritans are being hailed as heroes after stepping in to save a woman and two small children from what could have been a devastating situation outside Jacksonville, Florida. According to the sheriff's office, witnesses saw a man attempting to drive away in an SUV while a woman desperately tried to remove her two young children. Investigators say the man, later identified as 26-year-old Yanni Human, was driving off against the woman's will, dragging her and one of the children through the parking lot. What happened next was nothing short of remarkable. More than a dozen Jacksonville Good Samaritans stepped into a dangerous situation, potentially saving the mother and two children from serious injury or worse. Without hesitation, they rushed in, managed to pull the woman and two children to safety. As the vehicle continued moving, the man fled the scene, but not before witnesses provided a detailed description and the SUV's license plate to 911, and they managed to catch him. He now faces multiple felony charges, including child abuse, false imprisonment, as well as battery, marijuana possession, and resisting arrest. That's another good news story for you. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980, features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away 2 tickets to the Roy Pioneer Rodeo. You can win these 2 tickets for your day of choice, Saturday, May 31st or Sunday, June 1st. You can buy your own tickets at the event itself. We hope to see you there. Visit the Roy Rodeo Facebook page for more details. And don't forget, KVI will be there both days of the rodeo. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 2 tickets to the Roy Rodeo. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, that's going to do it for me today, my friends. But fear not, we'll be back on Monday with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.